We are chatting with a gentleman that I've wanted to chat with for a long time on Are You Game? And it's a gentleman named Perry Giannis. And Perry is somebody who's been in the community with ExposFest with many large-scale events and done a lot of good and raised a lot of money. And people know who he is because of the events, because of him and his family and the initiatives they've put on. But what about him? Where did it all start? And that's really kind of what I wanted to do today, Perry. And I know it's not something you do a lot. You'd prefer the spotlight be on your guests, the people you're bringing in, and the cause, of course, for your late niece and things like that. But, you know, people are interested in things like this, and it's inspiring to others. And that's really kind of what I wanted to get to. So, you know, my first recollection, my first memory of meeting you was the first preseason Blue Jays game here in Montreal in, I guess, March of 2014. And, you know, I had a table for exhibition. You had a huge display of your memorabilia, and you were bringing it in with your sons. And Gary Carter's widow was touring some of the you know venue, some of the tables and exhibitors, and you just missed her. And you were, and I happened to mention it to you, and you were so upset about it. And I was like, wow, this guy is a fan. And so that was kind of my introduction to your passion for baseball. Little did I know it would lead to, you know, what is it, $1.3 million raised now for this, we'll get into that, for this fund or the research at Montreal Children's Hospital, I believe, right? Or Montreal, you'll clarify momentarily.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. But just tell me about, did you grow up a baseball fan? Is that, you know, was it from the time you were little? Is it because of your family, yourself? How did it start?
Yeah, it was like I was one of those few kids who never played hockey, I guess, in Quebec. And I went straight to baseball because my dad was, as an immigrant, he gravitated more to baseball, which is also kind of odd because usually like immigrants coming into Canada, like soccer, you know, grew up with soccer in their background. So they gravitated to hockey because it's, you know, kind of similar, the goals, the nets and stuff like that. But my dad loved baseball, and he used to bring me to the games at the Big O. I went to one game at Jerry Park when I was in, I think, Adam, when my first year in baseball. My recollection was just that those seats were like hot. And but other than that, yeah, I used to go to baseball games with my dad. And then it became, you know, like as a young man, I was, you know, a young man. Before even I was a teenager, I was going with my friends and to the Big O. So baseball was always my sport from a kid.
What was it about baseball over hockey or other sports that captivated you? Was it the pace of the game, or the venue itself, the Big O, or the personalities on the field, or the success of the team at the time, or what was it?
Well, I guess because I played the game, right? Like, so when I started playing at 5 years old, that's when it really, you know, helped me understand the game, understand, you know, the players. And of course we had, you know, we're talking about the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s. We had the greatest of the greats play for us. So it wasn't too hard to gravitate to them. So yeah, it was just a great time to be a baseball fan and to play baseball.
Is it a sport that you bonded with your dad over? Was that kind of some of the romanticism of it? You know, you mentioned he's an immigrant coming over from Greece, and something that maybe sometimes as a North American kid growing up here in this culture, maybe sometimes it's hard to get him to pay attention to things that are current. And here you are, you know, you can talk about what's happening on the field every day.
Yeah. And that was it, you know, like it's something you could share with my dad. I used to throw, you know, the ball around with my brother. I had one brother, and you know, it was just that kind of family connection, you know. And I think a lot of people today, you know, thank God, you know, there's still, you know, baseball leagues in Quebec, and you know, fathers and sons and daughters playing baseball, and I think they, you know, they would attest to what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you start to mature, you start to, you know, you get married, you have your own family, and unfortunately it coincides, I guess, with the team kind of going out the door. So
Well,
how do you
I was
reconcile
lucky.
that?
I got him. Yeah, pretty much. Though you're right. Late '90s, early 2000. I never used to explain to them how bad the situation was. They were too young to understand that everything was going to hell. But I loved those times, and I want other fathers to be able to bring their kids to a future Expos game. Because there's nothing like it's so amazing. I know you could go see the Blue Jays, you could go see the Red Sox and stuff like that, but to take your son or daughter to
The
see their home
local
team,
team, yeah.
yeah, it's something that I really, really wish would happen.
What do you think it is about the game of baseball that lends itself to, father son stuff? Or for me, my personal thought is because of the pace of the game. So you're sitting there and you just have time to talk and strategize.
Absolutely.
Oh, what's
Yeah.
happening on the field? And,
Yeah. You can't do that in hockey and okay, football is a different kind of thing, but like in hockey, it's just like it's a bit like being at don't get me wrong, the energy's there and everything like that, but it's a little bit like being at a rock concert. The only chance you get really to talk about is during intermission, and you're screaming into somebody's ear and
yeah.
whatever. It's really not the same vibe at all. And I know people will say, "Oh, baseball is boring, baseball is slow," but you know what? To the credit of Major League Baseball, they sped things up this year, and the game is, I don't know, I think the game's fantastic.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better for sure in terms of the pace. So you start this huge collection, this memorabilia collection. I don't know if the wife was against it, but when did it start?
You know what? I started collecting from when I was a kid. We had like my favorite story is that's it. When I was in grade 5, Stacy Denica was a classmate and a friend, and her father Stan Denica was one of the agents to all the guys over here, like a local agent, So he knew Ellis Valentine, he knew Gary Carter, he knew Andre Dawson, and all the boys. And then one day she was saying, my dad could do this if you need a ball, whatever. And I go, that's not true. And she goes, yes, it is. Like when you're in elementary school. And I go, you know what? I want a ball signed by Ellis Valentine. And lo and behold, I don't remember how long it was after, she brought me a signed Ellis Valentine ball.
You thought, I got something here.
Yeah, and I kept that ball. And I think that really got me collecting. I collected hockey cards, baseball cards, and stuff like that. But when it came to memorabilia, like it's a different vibe, right? When you collect balls and jerseys and stuff like that. So I think that really did it. But what really put me on tilt is in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I knew the team was going to leave. I knew the writing was on the wall, and I wanted to remember them for the amazing franchise that they were, not like the garbage that we were watching. And, I don't want to say it wasn't the players' fault. I mean, just the garbage organization that we had become, like the laughing stock of the league, in the early 2000s with Laurie, and then being controlled by Major League Baseball, So I bought everything that I could because I just wanted to remember the glory years of the Expos, and go down in my basement and say, you know what, man, you remember this, you remember that, and we had the best of the best. So it's something that I really wanted to hold close to my heart.
I had a chat with somebody as well, Sonny from Habs Cave, and his collection and what he's been able to do. And for him, it was it was a way to socialize with others. Come see my collection, come hang out, come watch a game, and he's really taken it to the next level. In terms of your collection, eventually it led to it. Do you feel like all of your days of collecting prior to starting ExposFest and the events you put on, do you feel like it was all kind of purposeful to make those contacts and things that would then later serve you for a greater purpose? It's
so weird because like when I was in university, I was the coordinator for events at Concordia for CUSA. So I used to be in charge of putting on music, like concerts. We had done the Tragically Hip there. We had done the Spoons, which is before your time. We had done Glass Tiger. So events to raise money for the university. Yeah. And then I became, while I was still going to school and I got married, I was a part-time hip hop promoter. And life is weird like that, because you just mentioned that did it serve me, like did my collection serve me for a greater purpose? And I think my whole life, like starting from that point in university, led me to what we're doing now and raising money, because it taught me how to promote. It taught me what people like. And then my collection came along,
And
and
leading a
that got,
team as well.
pardon?
And leading a team as well.
Yeah. And I think that along the collection led me to players, and I knew 2 players, which turned to 4 players, which turned to 50 players, which turned to 100 players. And I think all that led up to, a higher purpose in life.
So it's interesting because some people devote themselves to various causes and they have great, various levels of success. And there's no such thing as non-success. If you're raising even $1 for a worthy cause, it was effort well spent.
Absolutely.
But never did I think, not that I thought much about the end goal, but that something along the lines of fun sports nostalgia would lead to what it has led to. So unfortunately, you lost a niece to a rare brain cancer, right? That affects kids only. And you started this foundation in her honor.
Absolutely. When Kat passed away in the summer of 2015, we had spoken with my wife, and we were trying to think of like how are we going to deal with this, like for my sister-in-law, because obviously there's nothing worse than losing a child. And I said, let's raise some money. Let's get her head into something in a better space. And in 2016, I had made her a promise that I told her that, and I remember this like it was yesterday. I said, I'm going to make Kat a star. And the way I thought of doing it was the only way. Like, I would never be as good at what I do as if we were, doing bake sales or even like marathons and walks, which are great things, but it's not my thing. I don't know.
You drew on your background. Yeah.
It's hard for me to promote that and whatever. And then when I thought of the expos, there was a niche there, and we did it. And we first promised $100,000, and that was really easy. Then we did 300, and that was pretty fast. And then we said, okay, let's do $500,000. And
tell the folks where it goes.
Yeah, it goes to the Montreal. Well, the first million was a promise to eventually it became $1 million, for brain cancer research at the Montreal Children's Hospital for Dr. Giabato, who does the IPG brain cancer research. And we so hope that one day with her research and doctors all over the world, that they're not going to hear our story, which is basically your child is going to die within 12 to 18 months. So that's where the first million went. And we were, we all have jobs. And we had promised $1 million, and we were ready to sail off into the sunset and just go back to our full-time lives. And then the hospital called us in and said, listen, we are building a pavilion, which is basically the Montreal Children's version of the Ronald McDonald House, where parents will be able to stay while their children are in long-term treatment. And when you say long-term treatment, it sounds better than what the reality really is, which is basically chemotherapy or radiotherapy. So that's long-term treatment. So and they said, okay, whatever. And then they said, we want to name it after your niece.
Wow.
So obviously the girls, jumped 10 feet in the air, and it was so exciting. And they dropped the number on us that they need to make this to sustain it over the years. And you know what? We really couldn't say no. So we promised another 2 million on top of the million. Like I said, the million was done deal. We were ready to go. But now they asked us for another 2 million, and we have 10 years to do it, but I can't do this in 10 years. So I've put up a goal that we got to do this within 5 to 6 years, because I ain't getting any younger, and none of us are. So we're hoping by 6 years, we got 300,000 in the till. We need another 1.7 million, and I think within 5-6 years we'll be able to do it.
Wow, that's incredible. So the amazing thing is, it's not, these are events that you put on, whether it's banquets or autograph signings or softball tournaments or softball barnstorming tours, for that matter. They're managed so tightly. In other words, no cent goes wasted here. It's your sons that are helping. It's your wife's family. It's really incredible. Talk about that support, and it's probably brought you guys very close together.
Oh, absolutely. We were already tight, like as a a family, and especially after a tragedy like that happens, we're even, if it was even possible, we even got closer together. But yeah, when it's all hands on deck, when it's the gala, everything else, we have volunteers like, my good friend and, number one volunteer, Tony Sagris, Frankie Larrives joined the team. So they come up with us on the tour. And, we basically, it's really cool when you think of it, because we're basically like a minor league ball club, just, jumping from city to city in a bus. And, we used to do 4 games. Now we added an extra game, and now we have 4 or 5 more cities that want us to come to their
really
spot.
talk to me about that. So they hear about it, and somebody there says, "Hey, let's do it here."
Yeah, let's do it here, and which is not really feasible.
Are they getting further and further out?
Yeah, exactly. Like we went as far as Lac-Mégantic this year,
right?
And they were fantastic. It was the 10-year anniversary of the disaster.
Yeah.
Like rolling into there, we were like Metallica. They were so happy to see us, and we were so happy to be there, and the nicest, kindest people. And it's a beautiful, beautiful city. So yeah, everybody wants us to come out, but like I said, it's not realistic because I got a grandson coming on the way, so my son won't be able to. He won't be able to go out.
Yeah, he's got a second kid coming. That's right.
Exactly. So, but whatever we could do, we want to add a golf tournament next year. So we find other ways to raise money, and we have to if we want to shorten up this period of getting the 2 million done.
Is there a thought of bringing it down south to former Expo kind of bastions like Plattsburgh or places like that?
Yeah, we get asked that too. We get asked for Toronto a lot because there's a lot of expatriates over there in Toronto. A lot of Expos fans.
Montrealers, yeah,
tons of Expos fans there. So yeah, who knows what the road's going to bring us down. But right now we're focused on gee whiz. We have our next event at the Sports Hobby Expo, and then we're starting to plan Gala 2024, which is really crazy because it feels like Gala 2023 just ended. So,
but you mentioned you have other responsibilities. This sounds like a full-time job.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How are you able to manage your other work commitments?
Yeah, well, I have a great team. Me and my wife have run daycare for 32 years, so we have a great team there, and a lot of it's office work. So when I finish my paperwork, I just jump on the rest of the stuff, and I'm always thinking of, like, from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed, I'm trying to think of new ways to raise money, and whatever it is, like I said, whether it's like we're going to have our surprise boxes coming out soon, we're going to raise $10,000 in basically 2 hours. So there's always something going on, and the wheels are always in motion, because like I said, I want to raise this $2 million, and I want to raise it a lot faster than 10 years. So I got myself in high gear while I'm youngish, and I think it motivates me.
In terms of your relationship with your wife, I mean, this takes up a lot of time. You're away sometimes in these events, or you're planning day and night. I mean,
she's amazing. Yeah.
Is it also helps that, unfortunately, that this was her family affected?
Oh,
maybe
my God. You know what? I don't think, I think my wife would be supportive of me no matter what the situation was. Like, my collection, for example, like not too many women would put up with what my wife puts up in this house, and it's funny when people ask me what are you gonna do with your collection after. My sons ask me sometimes, Dad, what are we gonna do with the stuff? I go, listen, no woman's gonna put up with what your mother put up. So you know what, you guys are gonna take a couple of pieces, and somewhere down the road, other people are gonna enjoy the collection. But not too many, like I said, not too many women would put up with the stuff that my wife puts up, because there's stuff all over the place here.
All right, so surreal moments, back to your fandom, right? So sometimes you always have your leadership hat on, you're the boss, you're trying to get stuff done, you're raising money, but along the way you've had some incredible experiences with various players that you loved watching, right? As a fan, do you have that kind of,
Absolutely.
Was there one surreal moment you go, oh my God, I can't even believe this? Like 20-year-old or 12-year-old Perry would just be freaking out right now. Like for me, it was sitting in the preseason, I was doing the pregame shows at the Olympic Stadium for the Blue Jays games, the preseason games from 2014 to whatever it was, 2020 or 2019. And I'm sitting in the stand, an empty stadium in the stands with Tim Raines, my childhood hero, basically, and I'm showing him how to use Twitter. Like, we're sitting there together, and I'm like, no, Tim, you should do this. One of the tricks to do is put, and it's just like, wait, what is happening? This is crazy. Do you have that kind of moment?
I think I've had a few of those moments, but I think the one that, like, as soon as you said it, the one thing that stuck out in my head was being with Vlad Sr. In a box in Toronto, watching Vlad Jr. get his first major league hit against the Oakland A's. And you
went viral there, Perry. You were congratulating them and everything.
Oh my God, yeah. I think he even left me hanging when I wanted to high five him at one point. But I was so happy, and I remember that moment because it was in the bottom of the eighth. I turned around and I told Vlad's mom, I go, I hope he's out. And it was a different player because I wanted Junior to be able to bat it. Oh no, I wanted Oakland to tie up the game so Junior could bat in the bottom of the ninth. So, or it was the bottom of the eighth or whatever the heck it was. And she gave me such a dirty look. And then when he got the hit, I almost wanted to say, see, I told you so, like it gave him a chance to come up to bat because he hadn't gotten that first hit yet. And just being with the family there and watching, Junior, that moment for Junior was like really special because, Senior is such a great player. I loved introducing my kids to Vlad and not only as a player, but as a person. He's a really sweetheart of a guy. And I think that was probably one of the moments. And the other moment maybe was also Junior related when, was it against the Cardinals when Junior had the walk-off?
Oh, you're talking about the preseason game?
Yeah, the preseason
in Montreal.
Game.
Yeah, in the preseason game.
Right?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I remember
0-0 game in a preseason.
Yeah, so when he hit the walk-off in the bottom of the ninth, the first person that I turned around to high-five, it was Steven Bronfman. So, high-fiving Steven after Junior hit the walk-off home run was really kind of cool.
Yeah, those are two special moments for sure. So, at this point, here we are, where it doesn't look like there will be a team coming back here, but it seems like you're busy anyway with baseball. So it doesn't, it's a nicety at this point. You wouldn't even have the time for it based on everything else going on.
Time, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. But so ExposFest.com is where people can get involved. Do you sometimes have people kind of writing in saying, how can I get involved? What can I do? And also, what are you looking for from folks?
Like,
what are you looking for in terms of help for ExposFest? Do you want ideas? Do you want volunteers? Do you want just money?
You know what? Volunteers, we have a whole slew of volunteers because we have a big fat Greek family and friends, and volunteers is never really an issue. But yeah, it always comes down to money, right? Whatever, or if people want to do fundraisers themselves and they're wondering, where can we donate the money? A lot of people do that, like what a lot of people started doing. And we've had a few do it for us is, let's say at a baptism, instead of giving out the bonbonnières like we do in Greek, they just, give us the instead of paying for bonbonnières, they'll give us the money that they would give out, as a donation. So that's really cool. And it's just different ways to raise money for us, like I said, to shorten that 10-year goal. So, when it comes down to it, it's always about the money. So that's what we want to do. We want to raise as much as we can and as fast as we can.
Yeah, 1.7 to go. Good Lord. You accomplished 1.3. There's no time. Yeah. There's no time to go. Great stuff. I can't believe we did that.
Yeah. But you know what? The gala generally, we're able to do between gala and all the softball tour and other little events. I think we're good for about $300,000 a year. Like that's generally what we've been able to do. So if we could do that, it doesn't sound so bad. It sounds like 5 years-ish. So if we could keep up that pace and get a little extra help wherever we could, I think we'll be in good shape.
Who's an unlikely person that's reached out to you and said, I want to get involved?
Like as an Expo player?
Could be a player, could be a politician who wanted to talk to you about what you're doing. Anybody.
Well, you know what? It's basically who we reach out to, like it's really always cool when we in our last gala, we just wanted some shout outs for raising $1 million. We got Dee Snider to make us a video. We got the premier to make us a video, and just when we tell our story, people genuinely are impressed. Because we're not a corporation. We're not a nobody draws salaries, and whatever we do comes out of our sweat. So I think people appreciate that, because nobody's getting paid for this. So I want to believe that means something to somebody.
The one thing that you come across as is genuine. You wear your heart on your sleeve. Whatever you're thinking, you're going to say it.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And it's funny, when I remember having a chat with you at one point, because you're active on Twitter and you're commenting on the sports world and stuff like that. And at one point I said, Perry, you're not just a fan anymore. You got you're like a philanthropist. You have a certain level and a profile now. People revere you. You gotta. Has it bummed you out that you have to be more restrained or more kind of?
Well, you know what? I get my frustrations out on Facebook. I stopped talking on Twitter because it's pointless, and we just post our events and stuff like that. But on Facebook, I'm pretty. You know what? When you there's two things that particularly bother me, is when they go after players that I like, and I like all of them. Like the whipping boy right now is Junior, because he's having an off year. So people go after him, and I have no problem going after them either, because you know what, when I know, like, to me, it's like you're going after a friend, right? So a lot of people don't realize that. They think, like, when you're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, when you go after somebody, it's like, it's random. What do you care what I'm saying? Well, you know what? That's somebody's friend, that's somebody's cousin, that's somebody's son, that's whatever. So, some people will care. So, and Quebec bashing, that's another thing I can't stand. I don't like when other people, talk bad about, who we are and what we're capable of, or we lost the team because we weren't supportive. That really drives me bananas. Like we would have been better served with ownership for so many years. And that's my classic go-to line. No city would have supported a team outside of, like, say, Boston, Chicago, New York.
People forget that the city of Atlanta, the city of Cleveland had 2,000 fans in the stands when they had an old dilapidated stadium and a terrible team on the field.
Of course they forget that, because people like to make fun of the underdog and stuff like that. So that really irks me, and I'll defend Montreal. I'll defend baseball. I'll defend baseball to the death over here, because we have such a I don't need to tell you the history of baseball in Montreal, and I think a lot of young people need to know what our role was, and it was a really important one.
Well, on behalf of the city of Montreal, and as a dad, it's just thank you for doing the work that you're doing for the, you never know when you need the work that others are doing to support these institutions, these hospitals, these doctors. And that's the sad thing is you just don't know. Yeah. But the amazing thing is that you're still got the energy and the drive to do it, and the team to do it as well. And I just hope that, I see you expanding to different folks who are playing in the league. You mentioned Vlad Jr. It's not just older Expos fans. Yeah. You're mentioning Julien all the time, the player right now with the Twins. And so that's going to be, your legacy, Perry, is that, these Quebec-born players that are going to be Major League Baseball, somehow, some way, you'll end up working with all of them at some point in the name of this cause. So, thank you so much for your time today. I know you got to get to a whole bunch of other things today. And, it's hard for me to not stare at that Gary Carter mannequin in the background.
Wax statue, not mannequin.
Statue. Yeah, the wax statue. That's right. Yeah, it's quite the likeness. I just hope that that your wife knows the difference, whether it's you or the statue that slides into bed at night.
She stopped coming down here a while ago, so it's okay.
Hey, Perry, thank you so much. Always appreciate chatting with you. But today was a little different, and I think it was well overdue.
Excellent.